All right, let's get right into it. We're going to talk about the punk aesthetic. And this is really a story about the life cycle of an idea. You know how a style that was born out of pure, raw rebellion got so powerful that the very system it wanted to tear down, well, it just absorbed it, packaged it up, and sold it right back to everyone. And really, it all boils down to this one simple question. Is the safety pin a weapon, or is it a logo? I mean, when you see one on a jacket today, what does it actually stand for? Is it a symbol of fighting the system, or is it just branding for a different kind of club? This image just says it all, doesn't it? On the left, you've got London in 1976. That safety pin is just a tool, holding a torn jacket together because you have to. On the right, Milan, 1994. It's a gold-plated status symbol from Versace. It's the exact same object, but they exist in completely different worlds. So how on earth did we get from one to the other? To figure that out, we have to go back to the very beginning. And you have to understand, punk was never a fashion trend. It wasn't something you chose. It was a gut reaction, a visual scream against the economic and social collapse that was happening all around. The whole idea behind it is this concept called bricolage. Now, that's a fancy French term, but it basically just means do-it-yourself. Punks were masters of this. They would take the actual trash of society, garbage bags, old chains, newspapers, and stitch it together into an identity you literally could not ignore. The whole point was to make something valuable out of what everyone else said was worthless. And think about the ripped t-shirt. That wasn't just about looking messy. No, it was a massive metaphor. Wearing clothes that were literally falling apart was a way of shouting that the whole promise of a nice, polished middle-class future was a total lie. The social contract was just as shredded as their clothes were. And this is so crucial, this was an authentic language that came from the streets. It was anti-fashion, there was zero commercial thinking behind it. It was just fueled by real anger and this feeling of being completely stuck. It was a look that screamed, there is no future, so we're just going to build our own present out of the wreckage. But then comes the turning point, because whenever something is that raw and that powerful, someone, somewhere is going to notice. This is the exact moment that all that chaotic energy from the street starts to get packaged up and prepared for the marketplace. And this change really starts with two people, Vivienne Westwood and Malcolm McLaren. They saw what was bubbling up on the streets, and when they started designing and selling these looks, they were basically giving the chaos a defined shape, a silhouette. They were the first ones to codify the revolution, turning this organic thing into a curated style. Their shop in London, which was famously called Sex, was pretty much the laboratory where this all happened. The style might have started spontaneously on the street, but now it was being sold with intention. And right there, that's where the tension begins. The shop proved that even the most aggressive, anti-establishment feeling could be put in a box and sold. And this, right here, this is the great, inescapable trap of any subculture. For a movement to get noticed, it needs a look, right? It needs a uniform. But the second it has one, it can be sold. Being visible makes you vulnerable. As soon as the chaos gets a name, it also gets a price tag. And that vulnerability leads us straight into the next phase, the total absorption of punk by the mainstream fashion world. This is where all those dangerous symbols get stripped of their meaning and get turned into status symbols. There's a perfect word for this whole process. It's called recuperation, and it's how the dominant culture deals with a threat. It doesn't fight it head-on. No, it's much smarter. It absorbs it. The system takes these symbols of rebellion, turns them into a product, and sells them back to you, which completely defangs the original threat. By the time we get to the 90s, this whole recuperation thing goes into overdrive. We see what you could call the luxury pivot. High fashion designers like Versace and Jean-Paul Gaultier, they just scooped up the entire visual language of the gutter, the rips, the chains, the safety pins, and slapped it on the runway. That safety pin wasn't a tool anymore. It was now jewelry. And boom, we're right back here at this amazing comparison. 1976, the safety pin is a weapon, costs next to nothing. 1994, it's a logo, and it costs a fortune. The physical thing is identical, but its meaning? It has been completely flipped on its head. So what's left of the punk aesthetic today? Well, that brings us to its final form. And it's not about rebellion at all anymore. It's about showing off a very, very specific kind of status. The meaning twists one final time. The punk look becomes the ultimate consumerist trophy. The message is no longer, I don't care about your system. The message is now, I am so rich I can afford to buy the appearance of not caring. It's a performance of indifference that you pay a lot of money for. And the final nail in the coffin? Mass production. When you can just walk into any mall and buy a pre-ripped shirt with an anarchy symbol on it, usually with 1,000% markup for what's basically damaged goods, the process is complete. The rebellion is now just another product on the shelf. This table just sums up the entire journey perfectly. Look at it. The origin was DIY, born from pure necessity. It cost nothing, and its whole purpose was dissent. The destination? Its designer. It's a manufactured choice, it costs a fortune, and its intent is purely aesthetic. When you can buy anarchy off a rack, the style is completely cut off from its soul. It's like a zombie. It looks like the real thing, but the spirit is long, long gone. So what's the big takeaway from all of this? The story of punk proves that capitalism doesn't just put up with dissent. It actually needs it. It's hungry for it, as a source of novelty, of new things to sell. This friction between the subculture and the mainstream, that's the engine that drives fashion history. The scream becomes a slogan, the safety pin becomes a brooch, and you can bet that somewhere, right now, a new subculture is brewing, just waiting for its turn in the cycle.